Georgia M. Hutchinson. I think you ought to know that.
Yeah. How old are you now?
I'm 97.
And you currently live here in Cimarron.
I think so.
Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Newton, Kansas, but the majority of my life was spent in Dodge City.
Okay. During the Great Depression, how old were you?
Well, let's see. I
Early.
was 18 when I got married, and I was 20 when Hutch was born, and Bev was born 3 years after that. So that must have been probably 25 years, 25 or something like that.
Okay.
You really ought, if you had the dates completely. But anyway,
Yeah,
that's what I know.
So, where were you living during the Great Depression?
In Dodge.
In Dodge?
Yeah.
And you were married?
Yeah.
Okay, I need...
And I had 2 children. We had 2 children then.
You're married to...
Kenneth L. Yeah.
What was one of the first changes in your life as a result of the Great Depression? What's one of the first things that you remember?
Okay, we at the first, we were living, when it first really began to start, we were in Hugoton. Ken, I need to tell you this because I'm going to give you my version of it because we didn't suffer from it.
Yeah.
Our family, my family.
Okay.
Because we were never hungry, we were never without food, and we could pay the rent, and we could pay the our we could buy groceries, we could pay the rent, and buy clothing if we needed them. And many people had nothing. But when it first started, we lived in Hugoton, and Ken worked for the railroad, and he got bumped off of his job. You don't understand about railroading. You see, when men the railroad, and like if you started well, let's see, what is this month? This January. Okay, if you started January the 1st, and somebody else started December the 31st, and they put jobs up for bid. You know, that's how you worked on the railroad, on bid. And if you were bidding on a job, and this guy that had 1 day more than you did, he would get the job above you. So Ken was being cut off and coming back to Dodge, and he had gone out there because of getting bumped off his job in Dodge, you know. And so, and that was a godsend for us because he learned everything that was in the station work. He could do any job that was in the station. The depot and the freight depot and the yard office, the yards. You see, you don't understand those things
Mhm.
because you don't even know what they're like.
Yeah.
Were like. So, but he had worked everything, so he could manage to keep working all the time
Yeah.
because a job had come up and there was nobody else that would be understand the job enough that the railroad would send him. He worked all over around as far as in Arizona. They sent him to Arizona.
This is all during the Great
Depression.
Depression?
Yeah, they sent him to he was in Arizona and New Mexico and Phil, all the, and I don't know, you know, just wherever they wanted to send him.
Mm-hmm. What was your main activity? What did you do during the Great Depression? Like, did you have a job, or
No.
you stayed at home?
Just stayed at home.
What'd you do all the time?
Just do the
Housework?
regular work that a woman does.
Yeah. Your regular daily activity didn't get affected by it?
No.
No?
No. Not really. Not mine didn't. Lots of people probably did, but mine was never.
What financial hardships did you have, or did you notice?
Well, you see, I had to say, well, you couldn't have everything you wanted, you know, and we made enough money. Ken made enough money that we could always pay the necessary bills. But the bills we had to catch up on afterward was doctor bills and bills of that type, but not your actual living. Because we could pay for our groceries, we could pay for our house rent. We lived in a house that we rented, a 2-bedroom house for $18 a month. And so that's what I'm saying. I can't really tell you the real bad things about the Depression because we didn't have to go without the necessities of life.
Yeah.
Like many people did.
Yeah.
And because lots of people, and I cannot think what they call this. I've been trying to bring it up in my mind. Maybe Bev would know. But at that time in Depression was under Roosevelt. He was the president, right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it was Roosevelt. And a lot of young guys like you and Weston or something, then took government jobs in order to make some kind of money because nobody had jobs.
Yeah.
When they had jobs, they didn't get paid. And you understand that the reason we were lucky like that was because we worked for the railroad company.
Yeah.
And we could get cash for our paychecks because they knew the railroad, you know, was good.
Yeah.
Anyway, but many, like if you were working uptown here, those people could not, their checks wouldn't even be good. And so you might get your check for working, but you might not be able to cash it either. Yeah. And so that's another reason that we never suffered from it. Our checks were there every 2 weeks. And I will tell you this, that 2 weeks that Ken worked. Now on the railroad, the railroad took out what was, they called it hospital, you know, like now they take out for insurance.
Yeah.
Well, ours was hospitalization. Any railroad man that needed to go to the hospital could go to a Santa Fe hospital and be treated free.
Yeah.
You see, Well, and he had to pay that. It was the first 2 weeks. The railroad paid every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you find and that's when they took out the hospital, was in the first 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then that 1 month, he worked 2 weeks and got a paycheck from the Santa Fe for 24 cents.
Yeah.
24 cents. And we still have that check.
You still have it?
Huh?
Did you cash it?
Oh no. He put it in his billfold and we never cashed that. And then I had it in a glass case, a little case-like thing. And so you could see both sides of the check. And when he died, afterwards, I gave that to Deb. And he has it now. A check 24 cents. That was 2 weeks' work.
Yeah.
At that time. So that, and people would not believe that today. Because when Rocky went to college, they were discussing these times, and he told the kids about the check for 24 cents,
Yeah.
and they laughed at him. And so Ken made a copy of it and sent it to him. Then it had a copy made and sent Rocky so he could prove to the kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you see, we were not hurting like lots of people.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't get a dime.
What?
There was nothing for him to do.
Did you have any new responsibilities to take on?
No.
No?
Not any new responsibilities. Well, when we came back from Hugoton, we lived in the house with my mom and dad for, I think, 2 years. And we all managed there and pooled what we had. And that was at kind of the beginning of depression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was Grandpa Ken out of work then?
No.
No,
No, he never was out of work. Never.
He just...
Never was
As soon as he lost one job, he got another one?
Well, yeah, because, and like I'm telling you, the job had come up, but the thing where Ken was smart, he learned everything, and so if somebody got real bad sick in the ticket office out at La Junta, they could call him, because he knew all about tickets. They could call him and send him out there to work, you see. And that's how we made it, because I can't remember all the little towns and all, but I know we were in New Mexico. What's the capital of New Mexico? Oh shoot.
It'll come up later.
Well, I'll think about it later. He worked in New Mexico, he worked in Arizona, he worked in jobs all around Kansas where he was needed.
Yeah.
Whenever he was needed, they called him to work, and he went. And
did you go with him?
No.
No?
I stayed home. No, because maybe he'd just be there 3 or 4 days or so, and then back. But nevertheless, it made it so that he could work in it all the time. And also during Depression, they would work. They were just on call. If they needed somebody for an hour's work, they called them, and that's what they get paid for.
Yeah.
And then maybe you'd get home and be home. Then many times the Ken just come home and never undressed and would be called back to work. And he had to go out. They had to go to the stockyards. You know where the depot sits now in Dodge.
Yeah.
Then about a mile out east was, I guess it was a mile, at least that much, was the freight depot, and then the yard house, and then they had the where does Beverly work at the where the cattle comes in and
Yeah.
stockyards.
Yeah.
Stockyards that were the one, and they'd work there, and they'd have to unload cattle and all that kind of stuff. And when they did that, I had to go to the stockyards. The fellows that were going took buckets and they milked the cows, brought the milk back home, walked and carried that from their homes.
So, was Grandpa Ken your only? Was that the only place you got money?
That we had money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the only one that made money?
Oh, no. All the other fellows that worked too.
No, I'm saying for you.
Oh, yes. That was our only income. Was,
how much did he make, every 2 weeks?
You know something? I cannot tell you that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
it would be different prices for the number of hours he worked through the depression area. Yeah. It wasn't like you would work this job and it's so and so. But because you only got paid for the time you worked.
Yeah. But you always had enough to.
But we always had enough. Now, sometimes it was less, and so to say that we suffered from the Depression, we really didn't. Exact,
Did you guys have a vehicle?
No. We walked everywhere.
You walked everywhere?
Everywhere. Yeah.
Did you have to ration any items? Like, you just couldn't do, some weeks you couldn't buy some certain foods?
That was during the war period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you never had to go without
Not
some
in the Depression. No. No, they didn't have. The only war things that I have, of those that you're talking about, I kept one book of each one of the kids and all like that. So I have those books that had those little tabs in them, but that was during the war. That was after the war came after even the dust days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was one of your most memorable experiences? Memorable.
Well, I don't know that we lived much differently than we did before.
Yeah. Did you ever go to the store and not have enough money?
No. No. Never did. You see, a lot of places, I don't know that we had one then. In those days, you could buy your groceries on credit.
Yeah.
Down to the stores. But then the stores were without money. When the banks closed, I don't know the dates, but the banks closed, and if you had $1 million in the bank, you couldn't have drawn it out.
Really?
Did
that happen to you guys?
No, because we didn't have that much money,
Yeah. You didn't
that
have any money in the bank?
we lived on our, yeah. And, but people, many really rich people all over, you see, the Depression was all over, all over the United States. And so people who were very, very wealthy, there was many suicides of people that just couldn't take the loss, and and
Did you have any friends that were greatly affected by the Great Depression, or?
Well, let's see. My parents,
Yeah.
they had no money. My dad didn't have a job, and the only way that my parents got by, like the 2 years we lived there. My brother, who lived in New York, was a college professor. He made pretty good money, and was able to send my folks usually about $15 a month or something like that, and that's about all they had to live on. Yeah, and they were pretty hard up, but well, and I shouldn't say it that way, because I did have two brothers at home who would pick up little jobs, and where I can't remember if the jobs that they had were closed off. I just don't remember all that. But anyway,
what do you mean by closed off?
I had two teenage brothers that were at home at that time, and of course they could help occasionally too, help with the money.
What do you mean by closed off? Their jobs were closed off.
Well, the stores had to close and things like that. The businesses and all.
Yeah.
They had nothing to work on. I don't remember if I'm exactly right on that, because I can't remember. Maybe your grandpa'd remember some of that stuff, because like I said, we always had things, but there was a lot of stores that could not keep going, I guess, because they would have to have money to pay for everything. I don't know just how that all worked, because I guess the reason is, I was young, and we were getting along fine, and if you're getting along okay, I think everybody else is.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the way it was.
What were your social activities?
Well, we played games in our home.
Yeah.
We'd get together and play games, and we'd play
card games.
And then we had these puzzles that you put together, jigsaws, and then people would trade puzzles around, and that's part of what we did.
Like, you traded them throughout your neighborhood?
Yeah, well, or with your friends, people that like to do those things, and I'm not sure. My folks belonged to the Oddfellows Lodge, and I don't know whether they continue. I can't remember whether they continued having parties up there or not. I don't recall that they did, but they might have.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. I just.
Did you ever get caught in a dust storm?
Did I ever get caught in a dust storm? No, I can't say that I got caught out in the dust storm, but like was I out and it came?
Yeah, you
No,
saw.
I nearly always got in. You see, you would see these storms coming.
Yeah.
You could see them from quite a ways off. Now the worst dust storm that we had, and I used to have a picture of that, but Bev said when Zach had to write this same kind of a thing,
Yeah.
why, she sent one of hers, and I sent one of my pictures, and I haven't got through some of them. When do you have to turn these in?
Oh, I've still got about, well, our report's not due for a long while. I just have to have the interview done by February.
Oh, okay. Well, I might even run on to I know that I have another one, but I will tell you about this one dust storm we had. Now, when I knew I was going to have Deb, then we moved into a 3-room apartment.
Yeah.
On Wednesday, they called it the Black Blizzard, and when Ken had gone to work, it was on a Sunday, and you see on the Santa Fe, you got no time off. You worked seven days a week for your salaries, and his sister Adelaide was here from California, and it was a beautiful Sunday. And once we began to hearing the yelling and going on in the neighborhood, and looked out the door, and that thing was coming, and it looked like it was just enveloping every house as it came. It just covered it. So when it went over our house, the house was just like midnight, and we had the lights on. You couldn't even see your lights for the dust. And I had remembered that we were waiting for Ken to come home for supper, and I had baked a cake that day and had it sitting on the counter, and when after that dirt storm went over our house,
Yeah.
okay, it just had that cake was just covered with dust.
Yeah.
And everything. I just don't know how you would explain things like that, because it was so terrible. That was considered the worst storm that we had, and you'd look at that and just come like it was just rolling over and taking the homes with them.
Yeah.
You know.
What did that affect your health?
Just dirt.
Yeah.
You see, during the dust storm, most people finally we covered our divans and things with sheets, and then rolled. In those days, we had 9x12 rugs, and we rolled our rug up and just had the bare floor, and so you could sweep the dirt up, you know, in the morning. And I had two windows in my bedroom, like this one here.
Yeah.
And one time I measured the dirt, I weighed the dirt, it was over 2 pounds. And that wasn't the worst of the storms either. That was just, they came this frequently. People got lost in their own yard.
Yeah.
In that blizzard. A friend of mine did. They didn't get into their garage, and they like to never found the back of their house.
How long did they last usually?
Oh Lord, I don't know. I don't know.
Some of them were
Some of them
short.
lasted longer than others.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now you know your grandpa, see, would probably have remembered that living on the farm. It would cover their fencing.
Mm-hmm.
The dirt would be mounded right over their fencing. You
How high was their fence?
And
How high was their fence?
well, I don't know about anything that was on a farm at that time, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that was, but that they were horrible things. And people wore dust masks. You know, had to wear masks over their faces. Those masks that covered their mouth and nose because of it. And well, I know that Ken walked to work, and the night of the black blizzard, the only way he knew when he was in the right block was to count the blocks as he stepped down off the curb, and he could count, and people would turn on their lights so people could see the best they could, you know, and all that kind of stuff. But well, it done lots of damage because, well, lots of houses with like roofs, you know, that roof space up there, the attic thing or whatever you want to call it. They'd get full of dust, and I don't know. It's even hard to explain, you know. And why I didn't keep some of those papers, I don't know. I didn't. I guess we just didn't think about it.
Did you have any worthwhile experiences?
Did I have what?
Any worthwhile experiences? Did it change the way you looked at life?
No. You mean in the dust storms?
Yeah.
Well, the only reason that it would change our lives was, like, you know, you'd see one coming, and everybody would run to the school to get their kids and bring them home, and things like that. But as far as other things, you just lived every day.
Yeah.
It might be a beautiful day today, but tomorrow you might have a storm.
Yeah.
And you never knew when it's going to come.
What
And
about?
of course, we didn't have televisions and stuff like that, and warnings, like, you know, about
Yeah. What about the Great Depression? Did that change your life in any way? No.
No, I can't say that it really did, because I feel like that we had, as I said, food, clothing, and we could pay our rent and things like that. But there was, many people had nothing.
Yeah.
So I feel like that our Depression days were not like some could tell you that had no. We bought cheap food and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't eat the fine things and all that kind of stuff because we didn't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
That's where we got the stewed potatoes, and I should have made you a pan of stewed potatoes and wieners and showed you what we ate.
Yeah. Did you basically eat the same stuff every day?
Huh?
Did you basically eat the same stuff every day?
Oh, no, not really. Not really. There was a lot of things. You used to, when Mom and I'd go down to buy our groceries on Saturday, we'd walk downtown, and we'd get hominy grits and potatoes and all that kind. You know, the commonest food.
Yeah.
And the food that filled you up good, you know,
Yeah.
but you did not buy any fraldirols. And in those days, women cooked. They didn't go down to the store and buy a pizza and come home and that's your meal. No way, no way. You cooked. Everybody had to cook. And like the people on the farms, well, I had a lady out in the country, and all the farm people did this. They raised their own chickens.
Yeah.
They had their own eggs. They had their own milk, and the cow, you know, and they raised food to eat. They got their food that way, and so you could buy things from the country, and like I had a lady that I bought chicken from, and eggs, and things like cream, and I got them for a real good price, you know.
Yeah.
So I bought those kind of things from her, and I know it was very hard on the farm people, but they had a hard time too. And I wish I could tell you what that group was that was paid by the government. And young people that many fine families that would never have worked that kind of work, is when they sent them out and they worked for the government. But I think Bev and Russ might remember that better than I do. And I think they built bridges and did all kinds of stuff like that, you know. They had to just do anything to make a nickel. To make a nickel. That's right. It's what they did. They do anything.
Is there anything else that you can remember that you want to talk about?
Well, I don't remember anything much more about it because we didn't suffer from it. So you know, we were in good shape. But I know my folks had a lot of trouble getting their bills paid and, you know, things like that. My mom did ironings and stuff like that for people for a long time after that, even when it was all over.
Yeah.
You should, oh no, that was another time. Oh, when my folks bought that little house over there on Avenue A at 902 Avenue A, and that's been taken out of there now. Bev and I were looking at the contract, and she took it home, I think, over there with her. And I think that my folks paid $100. It cost them $100 and some dollars. That was what their down payment was. And imagine that.
Yeah.
$100, and then I forget how little their payments were.
Yeah.
And all. And then they fixed it all up and as they could, and stuff, and that was right after. That kind of followed depression. I can't remember the years. That would tell me a lot of things if I knew the years of the depression.
Yeah.
And all. But it was a wild time. But people made out. They found ways to work around the things. Everybody that I knew managed somehow to be living, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But you might ask your granddad, and he might could tell you some things that about how the farmers had to adjust to this life, that and the depression in it, and then I know he would have probably a better idea from his folks telling it, you know, about the dirt storms.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and that's about all I can tell you. And I told Bev, I said, well, I should have said you better get somebody that really had trouble during the Depression. Yeah. Now, I don't think Russ's folks along very good during Depression.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think things were hard on the farm, so he might be able to give you some good pointers.
Okay.
And